Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Rowing Chat, the podcast for rowers. I'm Rebecca Caro, and I started this podcast series in 2013, and we've been doing it on and off ever since. Now, today, for the very first time, I've got a wonderful guest who is part of the growing movement of charities that use sporting events to get people involved and to work as fundraisers and team building activities. And so I'm delighted to welcome to Rowing Chat for the first time, Katie Rogers, who's here with Row for the Cure. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, Katie, you're obviously a rower. Tell us a bit about you and your rowing background.
Yes, well, I consider myself kind of a rough and tumble rower. I certainly didn't grow up in the tradition. I joined my university's club rowing team back in college at Wake Forest University in North Carolina. And we did not have any sort of high pedigree D1 women's team. It was a co-ed ragtag group of kids. And I immediately fell in love with it. I'd grown up riding horses, so this was a total departure from any sort of team activity I had ever known before. And it was so different and so unique to, in my mind, the college experience. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. So I spent 3 years doing club racing, and since then have been in and out of masters and just trying to keep it in my life through adulthood, as I know is the struggle for everyone. So that's the genesis for me.
Fabulous. Now, tell me, how did you first bump into Row for the Cure as a charity?
It's funny because I knew of Row for the Cure in kind of an abstract way as a collegiate rower. I had seen some of the, teams all in pink and heard a little bit about, well, this heat or this event is dedicated to Row for the Cure, and all the entry fees will go towards this certain fundraiser. So I kind of had a vague idea of what Row for the Cure was. And when I had gotten out of college, it was, maybe not even a year after I had graduated, I got a message from our founder, Cathy Frederick, on LinkedIn, which seems to be a good place to find other rowers. And she just wanted to have a chat and asked me if I'd be interested in helping out. And so we spoke on the phone, maybe 2 hours the first time we met. She's lovely. She's absolutely lovely. And she was the president for the vast majority of the time. She just recently transitioned to kind of an emeritus role and advisor role. So she's still very involved. But thankfully, the bulk of the kind of hard work, she's been able to hand off to someone else at this point, our current president, Beth. So anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, but she reached out on LinkedIn, we connected, and I joined. I think my first role, my title was events director, and I've kind of moved around in the organization since then, but I've been on the board now for over 6 years, which is crazy. Time flies. But that's how Cathy and I got introduced. And I was very surprised to realize that Row for the Cure, is making something that seemed kind of a concept, made it very real. And it's an organization of volunteers who are doing what they can in their spare time. So it's been really, really cool to be involved.
What is the mission? What is the big goal that Row for the Cure has?
Yeah, well, ultimately, the goal, I think everyone would agree, is to raise funds for cancer research and also support of survivors. So I think, if I speak for Cathy, I think the original goal was simply to raise funds for cancer research and to funnel that directly to Susan G Koman. And now, not to get ahead of myself here, but after the pandemic, like a lot of organizations, we've gone through a bit of a transformation. And I think a very exciting one, as our new president, Beth Cole, has shifted our gears from just benefiting Susan G. Koman and benefiting the local chapters of Koman to being able to raise funds and act as a sort of like a grant organization ourselves, to be able to not only donate to Koman, which we still do, but also to be able to help support groups of survivors, groups like rehabilitation efforts, and just generally be more involved in the community, not just giving money towards research, which sometimes doesn't feel very hands-on and immediately effective.
You're going to have to help me because I'm not from the US. Who or what is Susan G Koman?
Oh, sure. Susan G Koman is an organization that does fundraising, education efforts. Basically, when you think of breast cancer research and the fight against breast cancer, Susan G Koman is the main name that comes to mind. If not the top name, definitely top three, specifically for breast cancer and people with breasts, traditionally women, but people with breasts and their experience with breast cancer. It's kind of an all-encompassing organization, and their chapters, the original model was that there were chapters in the community. Usually, if you had a larger state, there would be one or two or three different Susan G. Koman affiliate chapters. And since COVID, they have also gone through a restructuring. So now it's much more centralized, which is why we're taking a look at our structure as well. But a huge, huge powerhouse for cancer research, essentially, to sum it all up.
I love it. Now, who actually gets involved with Row for the Cure at the front line?
That's a great question. So, of course, you've got our board, and we're the ones keeping operations running. And we've got some ambassadors as well. So we're very fortunate to have folks on, different teams and in different organizations spreading the word about Row for the Cure. So that's our organization itself. But in terms of the participants and who's actually out there making it happen, that could be one person creating a fundraising event. It could be, or an awareness event. It could be one club team. It could be a whole, a boathouse, a college organization. It really could be anyone. And that's, I think, the really wonderful part of the flexibility of our not only our organization, but the way we go about raising money and raising awareness is you could just be a rowing fan. You really don't even need to necessarily be a rower. Or, you could, if you have an interest in rowing and want to also help either raise funds for breast cancer research, or help survivors in your community and just happen to know a rower who's affected by breast cancer. I mean, it could really be anyone. Traditionally, the way that people have gotten involved has been either hosting their club or their boathouse, whatever their local rowing organization is, hosting a regatta, like set aside from their regular schedule, hosting a regatta and inviting folks to come in. It could be a traditional sprint race or a head race, or it could be, something totally different, something fun in the summer, off season. So folks have done that, and that's been very successful. And that's actually how our founder, Cathy, got Row for the Cure started, is with an event in Portland on the Willamette River. And also how I was introduced to Row for the Cure, and not knowing it yet, was one of the integrated fundraisers. So take Head of the Hooch, for example, which is a head race in Tennessee. That's a huge, huge regatta. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rowers. It's massive, and it's in a large city in Tennessee. So there's not only a lot of participants, but a lot of spectators as well. And in the past, up until relatively recently, there has been, obviously it's not the whole regatta, but there's been one specific event, one specific heat in a day of racing dedicated to Row for the Cure. So all those entry fees would be going towards Koman, and any sort of individual fundraising that the teams or the athletes wanted to do would be going towards Koman as well. So either an individual regatta specifically designated to be a Row for the Cure fundraiser, or a specific heat in an existing regatta is how we have traditionally been operating. And now we've transitioned to, as I said, you could hold erg sprints, you could hold just a fundraiser, or, that has nothing to do with actual racing. So anyway, not to ramble on, but those are the traditional ways, and there's lots and lots of possibility. So really anyone can get involved.
Certainly, when I was involved in the Women's 8's Head of the River race in London, which was a few years ago now, we had a charity association with a local breast cancer charity. Very, very similar. So yeah, definitely worthwhile. And I would encourage anyone who runs an event to consider having a charitable association. It doesn't have to be obviously a cancer charity, but yeah, there's great opportunity to do it, and I think it sort of extends the event and people's consciousness when they're participating, that it's not just about one thing.
I definitely agree.
Now tell me, do you know how much have you raised?
Yes, so I had to look this figure up because I did not know off the top of my head, but our president, Beth Cole, put the figure together for me. To date, Row for the Cure has raised over 3.2 million across the United States. So, and to think that Cathy, our founder, Cathy Frederick, she started Row for the Cure in 1993, just by herself with an idea and a goal in mind. And at this point, we're a couple decades in, and to have raised 3.2 million, I think is really incredible. And so I have a lot of pride in that, with just our group of volunteers being able to have that impact. And our goal for 2022 is to reach 3.5 million. So with the kind of reorganization that we're doing, our current president, Beth, is kicking us into the next gear. And we have a lot of really exciting things planned for 2022, and even some plans to hopefully go international in the next couple of years as well. So lofty goals, but so far 3.2 million.
From your observation of all the different events that you've seen happen while you've been on the board and while you've been a volunteer, what do you think crews like doing the most?
That's a really great question. In my experience, it depends on your crew, of course, depends on your athletes and what your interest is in. But I think the most enjoyable part that you can hold on to and look back on is the engagement in a theme. In this day and age with social media, we have an initiative in October called Pink the Boathouse, which is which is one of those non-race events that I was kind of referring to a bit clumsily. And this is simply an individualized, participate from anywhere, but wear your pink, get your team together, wear pink, decorate the boathouse, decorate your boats, get in costume, whatever it is, just deck out in pink and take a lot of pictures and post throughout October with the hashtag Pink the Boathouse. And so to me, of course, the goal is the actual fundraising. The goal is maybe the actual race itself, whatever you have going. But I think the camaraderie is what stands out to me. What really gets people going, like, hang on a second, I see all these pictures up, what's going on? And, bringing the stragglers that haven't made it to practice that week and get them in and get them in their pink and participating. So that's what seems to pop out as a really joyful moment. And certainly there are other parts of the experience that are really fulfilling in other ways. But that's an easy way to flag these events for newcomers, is to, just bring them in and say, really, all you need to do is pledge to spread the word, raise a little bit of money, take a lot of really fun pictures in your pink swag, and have fun. So that's what I think is really widely enjoyed by pretty much everyone.
What sort of things have you got planned now already that you can talk about for next year?
Oh gosh, yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that anything is announceable at this point, but I do know that there's the triumphant return of a lot of regattas that had to postpone for the past year and a half. It's been really upsetting, I know, for a lot of folks for a number of reasons, but we're happy to get some of our flagship events back on the water and look into some of, like I mentioned earlier, being able to support some rehabilitation programs, some programs that support survivors, and we'll have all of that up. We've got a newsletter that goes out, and we've also got a website, which I know we'll mention. And the website does need a little updating. All volunteer run organizations, the website is probably a little bit behind, but we will, all that to say, we will have the updates on the website as things roll out and ways to participate. And I would say go ahead and mark your calendars for Pink the Boathouse 2022. It's become a really, really exciting signature fundraising event for us. So Pink the Boathouse, go ahead and start collecting your pink items and planning a fun row with your groups, and have that on the calendar for next year.
Fantastic. So the website is rowforthecure.org. Go there, join the newsletter, get ideas about fundraising, track progress, and share it with your friends. Any final words, Katie?
Well, I think the last thing I wanted to leave us with is just, again, thank you for having me and allowing me to share a little bit about what we do. And I was really excited to join the board because my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was really young, and we did lose her when I was, gosh, 14. So having something to do, some sort of activity that will be in honor of her and in memory of her, and also fundraise for women, men, anyone who may go through a breast cancer experience. And it's for me too. And so it's just really meaningful for me, and I think that's what ultimately drives people to get involved with Row for the Cure. So I just wanted to, acknowledge that passion and call to anyone who feels similarly. There are, tons of organizations that you can get involved with to raise money for cancer research. But if you're a rower and if you enjoy having fun with your sport and also doing something really good for your loved ones out there that may be facing breast cancer, then this is a great way to do it. And I love it. I'll be on the board as long as they'll have me. And I think we're going to have a couple of really great years of growth and transformation coming up. So I invite everyone to get involved and join us on that journey.
That is a fabulous wrap up. Katie Rogers, it's been a delight having you with me on the Rowing Chat podcast today. And to everybody who's listening, whether breast cancer is your thing or not, I commend you to think a little bit about a suitable charity that could align with your values or your organization's values, and to make that a part of your personal rowing journey for the next year. I'm Rebecca Caro, and this has been Rowing Chat. Till next time.